You've probably heard of Pangea, the great supercontinent where all of Earth's land was once joined together. It's a world famous for dinosaurs roaming vast, interconnected landscapes. But what if I told you Pangea was just one chapter in an epic, multi-billion-year-old story? What if the world of the dinosaurs was actually a reboot of an even older, more mysterious world? Today, we're peeling back the layers of deep time, venturing beyond the familiar shores of Pangea to discover the lost supercontinents that came before. We'll journey to Rodinia, a world both alien and familiar, and even further back to Nuna, a landmass that witnessed the very dawn of complex life. This isn't a story of cataclysmic disasters, but a gentle drift through the slow, powerful dance of continents. So, take a deep breath, and let's travel back to a time when the face of our planet was utterly unrecognizable. This is the story of Earth before Pangea. Our journey begins roughly 1.8 billion years ago. Forget dinosaurs, forget forests, forget even the simplest land plants. This was the era of the Paleoproterozoic, and the world was a very different place. The atmosphere was just beginning to fill with oxygen, thanks to tiny cyanobacteria in the oceans. And it was in this ancient world that the first supercontinent we can reconstruct with some confidence began to form. Nuna. Some geologists also call it Columbia, but whatever its name, Nuna was a giant. Imagine nearly all of the continental crust we know today, but crushed together in a different configuration. The land that would eventually become North America was likely neighbors with Siberia and parts of Northern Europe. South America was nestled against West Africa, and Australia was connected to North America. It's a planetary puzzle that scientists are still piecing together, using clues hidden in ancient mountain ranges and the magnetic signatures locked within rocks. Life during Nuna's reign was subtle, almost invisible. The land was barren, a vast expanse of rock and dust scoured by wind and rain. There were no soils to speak of because there were no plants to create them. The real action was happening in the shallow coastal waters. Here, in the sunlit zones around Nuna's massive coastline, microbial mats, complex communities of bacteria, thrived. These were the architects of the early Earth, tirelessly pumping oxygen into the atmosphere and creating the conditions for more complex life to eventually evolve. Living on Nuna would have been strange. The days were shorter, only about 21 hours long, because the Earth spun faster. The moon was closer, creating much more dramatic tides that washed over the sterile shores. The climate is a bit of a mystery. Some models suggest Nuna's sheer size could have triggered intense global warming, while others propose it led to one of the longest ice ages in Earth's history. For hundreds of millions of years, Nuna was the stage upon which the slow, early drama of life unfolded. But like all supercontinents, its time was limited. The immense heat building up from the Earth's mantle beneath it began to tear it apart. Around 1.5 billion years ago, rifts began to form, splitting Nuna into giant fragments. For the next several hundred million years, these pieces drifted across the globe, a slow-motion continental ballet. This period of fragmentation is often called the boring billion, because from a geological and evolutionary standpoint, things seemed to quiet down. But beneath the surface, the stage was being set for the next great assembly. Let's fast forward to about 1.1 billion years ago. The scattered pieces of Nuna are beginning to converge once again. This time, they would form a new supercontinent, one that would have a profound impact on the evolution of life, Rodinia. The name Rodinia comes from the Russian word rodit, meaning to give birth, because it's thought that the ecosystems around this supercontinent gave birth to the first complex animals. Rodinia looked very different from Pangea. Laurentia, the ancient core of North America, sat at its heart, but it was positioned upside down and rotated relative to its modern orientation. East Antarctica and Australia were attached to its western shore, while other continental blocks, like parts of South America and Africa, clustered around its other sides. The formation of Rodinia created massive mountain ranges, far grander than the Himalayas today, as continents collided with immense force. These mountains would have dramatically altered global wind and ocean currents. The climate during Rodinia's time was dynamic and extreme. Evidence suggests it triggered a series of catastrophic ice ages known as snowball Earth events. Imagine the entire planet, from the poles to the equator, covered in a thick sheet of ice. For millions of years, the world was a frozen sphere. It's hard to imagine how life could survive such a deep freeze. But it did. Life found refuge in small pockets of open water, perhaps near volcanic vents on the seafloor or in sunlit cracks in the ice. And when the ice finally retreated, something incredible happened. The melting glaciers dumped massive amounts of nutrients, ground from the mountains of Rodinia, into the oceans. This infusion of resources, combined with rising oxygen levels, may have been the spark that ignited the Avalon explosion, a burst of evolutionary innovation that produced the first large, multicellular organisms. These were the Ediacaran biota, strange, frond-like and quilt-like creatures unlike anything alive today. They were the first true animals, and they flourished in the shallow seas surrounding the breaking up Rodinia. Around 750 million years ago, the familiar story repeated itself. The supercontinent that had dominated the globe for hundreds of millions of years began to break apart. Massive plumes of hot mantle rock pushed up from below, stretching and cracking the continental crust. A new ocean, the Panthalassic Ocean, which would later surround Pangea, began to open up, splitting Rodinia into pieces. The breakup of Rodinia wasn't a clean split. It was messy. Some large chunks, like Laurentia, Siberia, and Baltica, drifted apart. But other pieces came back together, forming a temporary, smaller supercontinent in the southern hemisphere called Pangaea, sometimes nicknamed the Vindian supercontinent. Pangaea was short-lived, perhaps lasting only 60 million years, a geological blink of an eye. It formed around 600 million years ago and had already started breaking apart by 540 million years ago, right around the time of the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian explosion was one of the most important events in the history of life. In a relatively short period, the fossil record explodes with a dazzling diversity of animal forms. Nearly all the major animal body plans that exist today, from arthropods with their exoskeletons to the first primitive chordates, our own distant ancestors, appeared. The breakup of Pangaea and the creation of new shallow seas and coastlines likely played a crucial role, providing countless new ecological niches for life to diversify and conquer. And that brings us full circle. The continental fragments scattered from the breakups of Rodinia and Pangaea would spend the next 200 million years wandering the globe. They would witness the rise of fish, the colonization of the land by the first plants and insects, and the evolution of amphibians and early reptiles. And then, slowly but surely, pulled by the inexorable forces of plate tectonics, they began to converge one last time. They collided, crumpled, and sutured themselves together to form the world's most famous supercontinent, Pangea. So, when you think of Pangea, don't see it as the beginning. See it as the culmination of a cycle that had played out for over 1 billion years before the first dinosaur ever walked the Earth. The stories of Nuna and Rodinia teach us that our planet is constantly changing. The ground beneath our feet is not static. It is a dynamic, shifting mosaic. These ancient worlds, barren and alien, shaped the very air we breathe and the oceans that teem with life. They were the crucibles where the first experiments in complex life took place, paving the way for the incredible biodiversity we see today. The Earth's story is one of assembly and dispersal, of creation and destruction, a planetary rhythm that has pulsed for billions of years. And the dance isn't over. The continents are still moving today, pulling apart at the Atlantic Ocean and crashing together in the Pacific. Far in the future, hundreds of millions of years from now, a new supercontinent will form, a Pangea Ultima, and perhaps life on that future world will look back and wonder about the strange, fragmented planet we live on today. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into deep time. It's a humbling reminder of our planet's immense history and our small place within it. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more explorations into the mysteries of our world. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you next time.